Viewer discretion is advised. The following is not speculation. It's based on leaked affidavits, sealed court testimony, and corroborated insider accounts. All names have now been cleared for public record. This is the first time the name Zendaya appears in the case file, and the name linked to hers, Beyoncé Knowles Carter. Courtroom, day 19. During a mid-morning recess, a sealed envelope was entered into evidence. Stamped, A-list supplemental reference, ZNC. Inside, a 2019 sworn statement from a former Roc Nation assistant. Their name was redacted, but their access, from Diddy's guest list to Beyoncé's inner circle. The statement opened with just one sentence. In October 2018, Beyoncé warned Zendaya not to go upstairs. No context, no explanation, just that. Exhibit 39A included a timeline. Zendaya had been invited to a private mentorship weekend. Hosted by Kamisi Enterprises, it was marketed as an empowerment retreat for young actresses. The location? A Malibu estate shielded behind 3 shell companies, not listed on any of Diddy's public property records. Zendaya was 22, a rising star, from Disney favorite to serious Hollywood roles. She accepted. That's when the account picks up again. No emails, no public statement, no official contact. Just a quiet moment. At a Tom Ford after-party, Beyoncé reached out. She touched Zendaya's wrist and said, "Don't go upstairs, no matter what they tell you." Zendaya laughed, nervously, confused. But Beyoncé didn't smile. She just added, "Not everyone who goes up comes back the same." And then she walked away. Exhibit 39B, a packing list for the Malibu weekend. Everything seemed normal until the final line. Black outfit will be provided on site. No size, no brand, just one word, mandatory. 2 days later, Zendaya arrived at the estate. Phones were taken, NDAs were signed, security was tight, even by A-list standards. But Zendaya stayed calm. She still didn't understand Beyoncé's warning. Not yet, not until night 2. That's when everything changed. The assistant's affidavit continues. They called it a blessing ceremony, private, invitation only, just for the inner circle, held upstairs. Zendaya was told she'd been personally selected. Her presence had been requested by name. She asked, "Who's upstairs?" The host smiled and said, "Only the ones who understand power." Zendaya froze, made an excuse about needing to make a call, walked calmly to the bathroom. But she didn't go back to her room. She went straight for the front door. Security tried to stop her. She didn't hesitate. "Beyoncé sent me," she said. And just like that, she walked out. She never returned. The next day, her team received a text. No name, no number, just a message. Grateful for her presence. Shame she didn't feel the energy. Just a reminder, every deleted tweet, every fake statement, every polished PR cover-up takes hours to unravel. If you want to help this channel keep digging, hit that join button. Support what others are afraid to say. Zendaya never spoke publicly about what happened. Not to her team, not to her friends, not to the press. She went back to set, like nothing had happened, but something had. The morning after her escape, she walked into her trailer on the Warner Brothers lot and found something waiting on her vanity. A red envelope, no stamp, no return name, just her trailer number, handwritten in pencil. Inside, a single piece of thick folded paper, no letter, no note, just a list of names, first initials, last names, some famous, some unknown, and hers. Zendaya's name was there, but it was crossed out, in red ink. The names below hers, still intact, still clean. She stared at it for 10 full minutes. No message, no signature, just a receipt. Later that day, she called the only person she thought might understand. No answer. Straight to voicemail. 2 hours later, Beyoncé called her back. No hello, no small talk, just one sentence. "That means they know you listened." Zendaya whispered, "What do I do now?" Beyoncé paused. Then Beyoncé said, "Now stay quiet, or they'll start listening back." Exhibit 39C, Now part of the sealed affidavit is a scanned image of the list Zendaya found. Most of the names are redacted for legal reasons, but 3 entries remain visible. Coco Crowine Creek K, Palmer C. Bailey, and then Z. Coleman, crossed out in red ink. The court clerk noted something chilling. The ink bled through the page, as if whoever crossed out Zendaya's name wanted it to stain. A week later, Zendaya's team received an offer, a private ambassadorship tied to a so-called legacy empowerment fund. No sponsors, no publicity, just one condition, a 7-figure discretion clause. She declined. 2 days later, a major cover shoot got pulled. No reason given, just off the calendar. Zendaya said nothing until 2023. That's when the Diddy investigations went public, and the phrase ritual parties surfaced in the unsealed Cassie transcript. Zendaya called her lawyer and said one thing: if they start naming names, mine was on that list. Exhibit 39D is her official statement, filed under protective order. I was invited into something I didn't understand. I walked away before I could, but I remember the names. I remember the hallway. I remember the smell on the second floor, like smoke and sweat and steel. I left before it got worse, not because I was brave, but because someone told me not to go upstairs. It had been nearly 5 years since Malibu. Zendaya never went public. No cryptic quotes, no subtle captions. She moved forward, but she never truly left the shadow of that house. Then came the leak. March 2023, a 23-second security cam clip, uploaded anonymously to a foreign server, time-stamped October 14, 2018, the exact weekend of the retreat. The footage was grainy, low resolution, but unmistakable. It showed Zendaya leaving the front door of the Malibu estate, fast, focused, unafraid, and just as she vanishes from frame, another figure enters. Tall, female, wearing all black, recognizable. The court redacted her name, but anyone who knows the timeline already knows she went upstairs and she hasn't appeared publicly since late 2019. Exhibit 39E. The clip is now sealed by court order, but Zendaya confirmed its authenticity in a supplemental statement. That was me, that was the night, and I know who followed after. She didn't run, she trusted them. And then, she disappeared from the screen. 3 weeks after the clip leaked, Zendaya received a package. No address, no name, just a handwritten phrase on the front, forgotten footage. Inside the package, a single USB stick and a printed note. Courier font, minimalist. It read, "You left the room, but the room remembers you." Zendaya hesitated. Her team told her not to plug it in, but she did. The file was old, rough, unedited. It showed a private room, candles, cushions, 3 women sitting cross-legged in black robes. The camera was still, the audio barely functional. But at one point, a voice said, "Number 4 didn't return. We'll adjust." Then a laugh, male, familiar. Then silence. Zendaya didn't tell anyone, not right away. She waited until June 2023. Cassie's unsealed testimony hit the headlines. It referenced numbered participants, 4 per circle, all in black. Zendaya saw it, printed it out, then with a red Sharpie, wrote one sentence across the top. That was me. Exhibit 39F is that very printout, filed by her attorney, attached to a private addendum, which ends with her first true admission. "I never made it upstairs, but I stood at the bottom, and I remember the voices, and I remember the silence that came after. If someone hadn't warned me, I don't know if I'd still be here." She was filming in Atlanta when it happened. Late night shoot, cold set. Her phone was supposed to be off, studio rules, but it lit up once. Private number, no ID. Zendaya stepped outside her trailer, answered, no voice, no static, just footsteps, slow, heavy, pacing, then a flick, the click of a lighter. Once, then again, then silence. Zendaya didn't say a word, just hung up. That same day, her publicist called. "Did you hear about Zendaya cut her off. She didn't want to hear the name, but she already knew. One of the women from the mentorship weekend, now in a psychiatric facility. No charges, no statement. Just a family rep saying, she hasn't been the same since 2019. Zendaya stood in her trailer for an hour. Didn't sit, didn't blink. Then she made a call. She hadn't made in almost 3 years. Beyoncé answered. On the first ring, no greetings, no small talk. Zendaya whispered, "They're still watching." Beyoncé didn't speak, just breathed. Then finally she said, "You think they forgot?" "Baby, that's what they want you to think." Zendaya asked one question. "Was there ever a list?" The line crackled. Beyoncé whispered, "There's always a list." Exhibit 39, now part of the sealed court record, includes a transcription of Zendaya's legal team's notes from that call. One line stands out, underlined. 3 times she heard it. "The ones who go upstairs don't get blacklisted. They get rewritten." Later that week, Zendaya found an envelope. Plain white. No name, no logo, just a single card inside, printed in courier font. "We adjusted." She remembered too much. Zendaya didn't tweet, didn't call the press, didn't flinch. She just left Atlanta the next morning and flew to Houston to meet Beyoncé. For the first time since 2018, no entourage, no stylists, no cameras, just Zendaya, Beyoncé, and a single manila folder on the table between them. Unlabeled. Old. Zendaya hesitated. Beyoncé nodded. "It's not your file, but it's one you should see. Inside an NDA, unreleased, not Zendaya's, dated 2015, issued by a comms-affiliated property. But the strange part, the clause at the bottom, nonverbal consent inferred via presence and dress code adherence." Zendaya stared at the line, then asked, "Did anyone sign this?" Beyoncé didn't answer. She just tapped one line at the bottom. Initials, KL, handwritten below. Refused. Zendaya blinked. She'd never seen that name on any list. She asked, "What happened to him?" Beyoncé looked out the window. "He asked what was upstairs. He didn't like the answer." The next week, his entire catalog was frozen. No label, no reissue, no rep. "He's not blacklisted. He's erased." Zendaya whispered, "Why are you showing me this?" Beyoncé said nothing, then pulled out another folder. Inside, the same 2018 guest list from Malibu. But this time, the ink was different. Zendaya's name was still crossed out, but now, in black. She flipped the page. Another name, a young actress, huge for a second, then vanished, not crossed out, not circled, just highlighted. Beyoncé watched her read it, then said, "They don't cross out the ones they can still use." Exhibit 39H is a photo of that folder, taken by Zendaya's lawyer, submitted under seal. The court verified the handwriting. It matched 3 other sealed documents from Cassie's civil case. Same pen, same hand. Zendaya leaned back in her chair. Beyoncé poured her a glass of water, then said, "I can't tell you who's safe, only who's been warned." Zendaya asked, "So what does this mean for me?" Beyoncé looked her in the eye. "It means they'll stop sending messages. Now they're watching what you do next. Because the ones who disappear don't scream. They whisper." A month after the Houston meeting, Zendaya was back in LA, back to work, back to interviews, back to pretending. But that's when something slipped, not in court. On a podcast, a music journalist, mid-convo, started talking about how fame messes with memory, then casually dropped this. "You ever hear that story from 2018, where one of the 4 girls at Diddy's retreat just left? They say number 4 didn't return. Not mentally." The host laughed, brushed it off. Zendaya didn't. She watched the clip 10 times, because that exact sentence, "number 4 didn't return," was whispered in the USB footage. She had received the clip months earlier. Now she sent it to Beyoncé. No reply. But that night, her assistant called. "You need to see this." A new Reddit thread. Anonymous user. Unverified account. The post was titled, "The Journal She Never Meant to Leak." screenshots, pages, scanned in low light, all from a woman who had attended the same Malibu weekend. No name, but Zendaya recognized the handwriting. They told us it was spiritual, said it would clear our fears, but upstairs I felt like silence wrapped in power. I wore the robe. I followed directions. I didn't say no. I just stopped saying anything. And then a line that shook her. When they took her phone, she smiled. When they took mine, I felt like my name was being shaved off my skin. Zendaya printed the journal, took it to her lawyer. They filed it. Exhibit 39I, admitted under seal, now flagged as a pattern witness statement. That night, Zendaya finally wrote her own entry, a single page, dated October 2023. They stopped sending envelopes, stopped whispering threats, stopped calling, because they think I understand now. That silence protects me. That fear keeps me working. She paused, then added, if my name's already on the list, they can't scare me off it. She folded the page, sealed it, filed it under a new heading, Zendaya, Involuntary Testimony. Initial draft, not public, not yet, but it exists, and it ends with 5 words. I never went upstairs, but I remember the door. Weeks later, Zendaya got a message. Unexpected, not from Netflix Legal, but from a producer she trusted. Familiar. Director. Have you ever received a red robe invitation? Zendaya froze. Typed back. Excuse me? The typing bubble appeared, then vanished. An hour later, the meeting scheduled for that week canceled. No reason. No reply. Just gone. The next day, Zendaya's assistant brought in a box from her old stylist's storage. Unmarked, sealed, forgotten. Inside, scripts, accessories, notes, but at the bottom, an envelope, labeled, final dressing room copy. Inside, a memo, dated 2018. Subject line, participant Zed's status unrobed, reassign. One line was highlighted in yellow. She declined the ritual, reassign. Zendaya stared at it. She hadn't worn the robe, hadn't gone upstairs, and now she realized they never needed her signature. They were tracking compliance by behavior. She told her lawyer. They filed it. Exhibit 39J, an official dressing room recovery document. Handwriting verified. Matched 2 other event logs from the Commas Global Archive. Court certified. But that wasn't the worst part. That same week, Zendaya got a voice note. Block number, female, young, trembling. 1 sentence. I'm still in the ID house. I never left. Then static. Then gone. Zendaya didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She called her attorney, asked for filing paperwork, not to sue, not to accuse, to sign her name on record, permanently. Her lawyer paused. Are you ready for what that means? She said, well, this isn't about me anymore. It's about the next girl, the one standing at that staircase, and the voice that doesn't reach her in time. Exhibit 39K, Zendaya's signed declaration, is now sealed under federal protective status. But the last line was made public, typed in bold. They called it a circle, but I never saw anyone come back around. Zendaya was doing press for a fragrance deal. Nothing serious. Light questions, fashion, confidence, balance. Then the interviewer asked something off script. How do you stay grounded in an industry that doesn't always feel real? Zendaya smiled, paused, then said, you learn to hear things that aren't said. You learn which doors not to open and, more importantly, when to leave before they close. She didn't elaborate. The segment cut early, but the clip spread. Like wildfire. People thought she was being deep, inspirational. Only a few knew exactly what she meant. Later that night, her assistant walked into her dressing room. In her hand, a simple white card, hand-delivered. No envelope, just a name, crossed out. Same handwriting as the Malibu files. Zendaya read it, didn't flinch. She folded it, slipped it into her journal, said nothing. She went home that night and wrote her final entry, dated November 2023. I didn't survive the room. I escaped before it locked. Not because I'm strong, but because someone said, "Don't go upstairs." There are people still in that house. People who wear the mask so well, they don't even know it's a mask anymore. But I remember the robe, the voice, the hallway, and that list. I never asked to be on it, but now that I was, they don't get to tell the story without me. Zendaya never released that entry publicly, but it was submitted. Exhibit 39L, the final page in her closed file. Her legal team confirmed she would not pursue litigation, but the record would remain intact. Filed, verified, stamped with her signature, Zendaya Engelman, and just below it, a final note, handwritten in red. "This is for the girl at the bottom of the stairs. You don't have to go up. You just have to leave."